Hello, my name is Atasieā, and I am a healer, spiritual guidance counselor, and channel. And on this channel, Angelic Presence Healing, I'm going to be doing some channeling from my Pleiadian guides and bring through some information for humanity and the just general collective of people who may resonate or be following me on social media or on YouTube. And I've been asked to start to do more public channeling in addition to the private work and group work that I do for clients and in small groups, to start to get the information out into the mainstream more. So this is one of my first attempts at doing that. So just bear with me and listen and share and like this video if it resonates with you. Okay, thank you. We come through this channel at this time with messages that are designed to bring all those who are willing to come with us into accord with unity consciousness and the unity consciousness grid that has already been created and is magnetizing the collective evolution of the human species forward along the evolutionary trajectory rather than back. We're using this channel along with countless other channels on the planet at this time to get through to as many human beings as is possible. We, the Pleiadians, come from the star system that is also referred to as the Seven Sisters, that is in the constellation Taurus, and we are ancestral guides, cousins, family members, star lineage members that share the spiritual and cosmic and also physical DNA with the human species. We are your cousins. There's much information from many different teachers about us, and you can research through your internet, through many publications and books and other channels about who and what we are. That is not the purpose of this particular message that we are bringing through this channel. We want to speak to you about a number of things, but we will not take much of your time. We will bullet point some of those things and encourage you to check within your own heart about the resonance of these subjects, and then move towards exploration and discovery of what about that resonance or lack thereof makes you believe or feel what you feel in relationship to these subjects. The first thing that we wish to speak to is this idea of ascension, which is a term that is thrown about quite frequently within the spiritual communities, the New Age movement and philosophies and industry. What we wish to say about ascension is that it is a real phenomena that is actually occurring, in which the vibration of the planet itself is raising in frequency. You may reference the Schumann resonance and notice how within the past couple of years it has expanded its frequency in ways that are manifold or much more of an increased vibration rate than what was the normal standard for previous thousands of years. This frequency increase is not just happening with that specific resonance, which is likened to the heartbeat of the Mother Earth, but there are changes within the sun's rays, the frequency spectrums that the solar being is emanating and disseminating onto the planet and shining into the solar system, which it is also receiving from the galactic center, which is also receiving information from the universal center. So in this way, there are many different spectrums of light that are moving through the universe, that are reaching the planet, that are changing the trajectory, the frequency, and the bandwidth of energy, or bandwidths of energy, that are accessible as far as vibration is concerned, on a subatomic and spiritual level. Particularly working with spectrums of light that are beyond the 7 color visible light measurements that you can perceive with the naked eye. Quantum physics, astrophysics, all of these sciences that exist on your planet are fully aware that there are spectrums of light that are much beyond the physical rainbow spectrum. For instance, infrared, gamma rays, ultraviolet, and so on and so forth. But those are just a few of the rays of light that go beyond the physical perception, that influence physical reality, whether you can see them or not. We reference this to give you a framework for what mechanically is spurring on ascension. It is literally the quality of light, for lack of a better way of describing it in layman's terms, heating up and boiling and shifting, warming or cooling or augmenting the physical plane, because that's what light does. If you shine enough light, say for instance through a prism, it can obviously start a fire or combust something or melt something. These rays of light that are coming through from the galactic center, from the universal core, from the source of all that is, are literally heating up the template of the dense physical reality that you all have referred to as the third dimensional reality of time and space. Time and space is being melded and molded and stretched and compressed and transmuted and transduced into something beyond the limitations of the physical reality, so that the space in between the atoms that hold your physical reality in place as a dense, solid formation is widening, and portals are opening in the space in between the subatomic particles that make your physical reality fixed. Time is stretching and augmenting, and so you are actually not necessarily held in the third dimension anymore. You have crossed into the fourth dimension, which is the astral plane, or the realms that you travel in when leaving the physical plane, in the dream world or in a death experience or near-death experience. That is actually changing the density on this planet to a fourth density, and even moving up into the higher spectrums of the fifth dimension or fifth density, and so on and so forth. So you are moving through a bridge transition into a new octave of expression, where things that hitherto have been thought of as supernatural or impossible will become more commonplace. So that is what ascension is, for those of you who do not know. And for those of you who do know, you know this already. This is basic kindergarten level reframing of what this terminology is. We wanted to give you the framework, though, so that we can give you a larger context of some of the things that are happening on this timeline, especially in the American social construct. There are interest groups within humanity and other interdimensional interest groups and non-human forces that are vying for influence or control over what the collective genome or collective consciousness of humanity will do with this energy. Whether humanity will harness and ride the wave safely into a higher expression of harmony with Earth and the universe and the greater living kingdoms of all sentient beings beyond just the human race, or whether human beings will spiral more and more out of control in disunity consciousness, in separation or disharmony with the natural environment, other living beings, and each other, in a potential dystopian future response that could resonate with annihilation of the species or subjugation or massive cataclysms or genocides that would then decrease the population. Those agendas, however, are not set in stone. There is no stamp of destiny that says this outcome is fully destined to happen, or this outcome exactly this way is fully destined to happen. There are a myriad of timelines that are like an accordion stretching out, and there are all these different corridors or train tracks leaving from the central nodal point of the now. This central nodal point of the now is now. Whenever you are receiving this information in your mind, wherever you are looking at this video or hearing these words, this is the now that we're referring to. And from this now, there are almost an infinite amount of timelines that can ripple forward based on what you, the individual sovereign, free will, co-creator being, thinks, says, or does. Every thought form, every action, and even inaction is like a rock being dropped in a body of water, and multiple rings ripple out throughout that whole body of water, touching everything else in that body of water. Even inaction is an action that has a ripple effect out on all other things that exist in creation. And so, choices to breathe or hold the breath, choices to act or be still, choices to disseminate information or withhold information, choices to hold a certain belief system or another belief system, or not believe in anything at all, choices to go with the flow versus to subvert the flow and direct the flow. All these things create parallel timelines or options based on your choice. So there are those moment-to-moment individual timelines that you each are traversing. And then there are collective timelines that are based on the net worth of the collective consciousness, thought forms, and belief systems and trajectories of humanity as a race, as a genome, as a morphogenic field, a collective, or a planetary consciousness or group, species. What different interest groups are trying to do is subvert enough of your individual attentions through the media, through warfare, through even philosophical or religious belief, through economic embroilment in financial structures, and through, quite frankly, the misuse or the subversion of sexual energy, so that individual consciousness is locked into, almost entrained by a maze-like matrix of energy that would cause a hamster wheel perpetuation of running through the maze, but on a track that doesn't go anywhere higher than it has already been, a certain broken record of frequency or experience. With those of you who are most likely listening to this recording or somehow crossing paths with this information are doing is actually transcending that maze, stepping off the hamster wheel or floating above it, or moving to a different dimensional perspective where you're not stuck on the broken record, but you're observing the record, possibly with fragments or parts of yourself tied to the record, and being a witness to that part of yourself that's on the record looping, and also being aware that there's another part of yourself looking at that part of yourself looping, wondering why you are still doing that. So if you have the awareness to witness yourself looping or perpetuating what are called false timelines, meaning the status quo, business as usual, the constructs or the density of society or religious or familial programs or karmic loops or ways of thinking that are being projected at you or almost instigated automatically, whether it's through the media or just through some program that you have in your consciousness that you don't understand why you keep struggling with that thought form or belief system, even though you know it's not your core truth or core value. Those are falsely mechanized or imprinted or enforced timeline imprints or influences that are being externally amplified or influenced. The natural, meaning universal order, is the light frequencies that are coming from Source itself. Source meaning the divine essence that is in and throughout all things. You can call it creator, you can call it prime creator, unity consciousness, the universe, Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, whatever you wish to call it. There is one force that is in all things, dark, light, and neutral, and this force is actually seeking to evolve through physical creation and manifestation towards less dense reality that is more in unity and less in separation. However, forces that are in that creation that are playing the role of negative, seeking to perpetuate disunity and separation and duality, are going to be fighting tooth and nail to the very end of this particular timeline's drama that is playing itself out to try to ensnare as many souls, individual people, and collectives into disunity, warfare, artificial intelligence or artificial timelines that would have one disconnect from nature or the natural rhythms of this planet or the universe. And they are seeking to do that urgently because the time frame for people to not be aligning with these universal frequencies is closing. There is about a 10-year window of time from this calendar, Roman calendar year of 2019, where most, if not all, souls on the planet will have to have chosen for themselves or had that choice made for them about what sort of future paradigm reality they will be shifting into as far as humanity's destiny is concerned. So you can look at the next decade from 2019 to 2029 or 30 as everyone on the planet, all living beings, but specifically humanity, each individual and collective and soul group or soul family in humanity being shoved into a giant train station, Union Station, Grand Central Station, Waterloo Station, any of the major train stations that you may or may not have been to, but imagine a giant train station with multiple different tracks that go out all over the world. Each human being karmically, just by being alive on this timeline, is going to have to be put into this metaphoric train station to decide for themselves or have the decision made for them by some other interest group that they are giving their power away to, what train they're getting on and where that train is going. All trains ultimately, according to universal law and the natural order of unity consciousness, despite the chaos and the duality that has been experienced on the earth for many years in history, all trains ultimately are designed to end in the same place, which is returning back to the source from which all things come. However, there are some trains that have been designed to go somewhere else that's not in accord with that. We, from our perspective, do not understand that motivation to try to distort the natural laws and orders of this universe to create dystopian futures or trains that are running off track into disaster just for the sake of creating more suffering. However, there are beings who actually want to see that play through. What we are bringing this message through to you for, who are listening to this now, is not to make you afraid of these forces. It is to make you aware that there are actually no degrees of separation in unity consciousness. These forces that we speak of are not outside of any of us. They are aspects of ourself. Unity consciousness excludes nothing. So these versions of interest groups or oppositional forces on this giant multidimensional chessboard that is life on Earth right now are just playing a role of opposition to give us the challenge of playing the game of choosing sovereignty or choosing to be swept up by historical, spiritual, mental, emotional, or information forces that would have us get caught up in a current that seems to be beyond our individual control. And what we are offering to each of you is that none of this is beyond your individual control. Your individual control comes from your awareness of your sovereign oneness with Source. When you find a spiritual or mental or philosophical practice that aligns you with unity consciousness and the source of all that is, it does not matter what denomination or what belief system structure it is, as long as it is based on the fundamental truth and universal law that everything is one thing. All things are connected. When you understand that and you take your responsibility back to embody that truth, then your actual ability to influence your environment as an emissary of that oneness changes the way that you play the game, so that the black pieces that are playing against the white pieces aren't necessarily needing to fight to the death, and that winning over those forces isn't the end game. It is more playing the game skillfully, joyfully, and winning, but not in a way that creates hard and fast losers, but creates opportunities for learning to happen, joy, and some harmony or even resetting of the game, so that the game changes, or you play a new game, or you put the pieces back in the box and move on to a new octave of expression. Part of what is happening on Earth, on the timeline that you live on, is karmic resolution, where all of the beings that are going to be pushed into the train station will have opportunities to resolve all of the karma that has led one to be alive on this timeline in this incarnation. And so if you are particularly having a hard time and being tossed about by life, know that this is your life and your soul being given the opportunity to resolve karma, and that there are a myriad of tools, spiritual and otherwise, that can help you to complete that karmic resolution and regain sovereignty within yourself and be empowered, and that you have the right to choose to be empowered or to be a victim or to be a perpetrator. We want to speak to the idea of neutrality, the sacred neutral, which is not necessarily fully positive or fully negative, but it is the nexus point between those polarities. Think of the nucleus of an atom, for instance. You have the negative electron, and then you have the protons inside there. There's also subatomic neutrality, that is, all of those things are spinning around. So this neutral space is one that will help to elucidate or illuminate the resolution of karmic polarity battles and duality, and will help you and others to synthesize resolutions rather than continue warfare or right versus wrong or dark versus light in a way that just perpetuates more suffering. And the final piece of information that we wish to disseminate through this channel before we release the channel is that not all of you are aware of this, but most all human beings have connections to star lineages, races of extraterrestrial beings that are humanoid or otherwise, that your souls come from a connection to these lineages. Your souls have had incarnations in the races of the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, the Lyrians or Sirius lineages, or various other Andromedan, different galaxies. Souls migrate and transmigrate across timelines and planets way more frequently than is understood. And the idea of reincarnation is, or has in the past functioned as some form of a trap or looping system for those beings embroiled in karma unnecessarily. But it has been necessary to be embroiled in that to get to this stage in humans' history where the resolution of karma as a mechanism to perpetuate warfare and suffering is being brought to the forefront of human consciousness. The opportunity to neutralize that karmic loop is coming. It is here. And you exist on a timeline where many more messages like this through many more people other than this channel, and hopefully this channel will continue to disseminate these messages, will be coming through with more and more specific information about things that you can do to empower yourself and liberate yourself from the broken record, false timeline grid that is rampant in American society. 3 things that you can do on a daily basis to start to liberate yourself and inhabit the sacred neutral are: 1, cultivate a spiritual practice that makes you actually feel good, as opposed to guilty or heavy laden or burdened. Cultivate a spiritual practice that makes you actually feel good and connects you to unity consciousness, to the source of all that is, God, Goddess, nature, universe, whatever that is for you. Cultivate a spiritual practice that makes you feel good and practice it daily. On a technological level, avoid constantly being under the influence of technological devices, electromagnetic fields like microwaves, radio waves, and other forms of electromagnetic field poisoning that comes from Wi-Fi, cell phones, refrigerators, computers, etc., etc. As much as is possible, turn these devices off when you are not using them, or do not hold them on your body all the time if you do not need to have them on your person. Turn them off when they are not being used. Unplug your Wi-Fi. Get natural forms of minerals that deflect EMF, or devices that deflect EMF, such as shungite, Shungite. Find shungite, order it off the internet, go to your local crystal shop, and put the shungite onto your cell phones, onto your Wi-Fi, onto your refrigerators to block the EMF. Grid your space with shungite or other forms of stones that block EMF. And 3, leave major cities or major areas of metropolitan commerce to spend as much time in nature as is possible. The false timelines and the psychic pollution and the electromagnetic field pollution within the cities is going to be increasingly more and more intense, and there will be more and more psychic debris or pollution of the spiritual and physical sort, of the emotional and mental, and even violence and things that are very hard for those who are sensitive, those who are opening up spiritually, or those who are empathic to process. Going into nature will return you to the circadian rhythm, the natural alignment with the Schumann resonance, or the heartbeat of the earth, and the trees and animals and plants and minerals and spirits of nature will cleanse your frequency if you consciously retreat into nature and ask for that cleansing to happen and do your practices or meditate or just ground yourself there. Grounding in nature is important. Allow your bare feet to touch the earth and the minor chakras in the feet to open up and connect you to the earth star chakra beneath your feet to activate your purpose for being alive on the earth at this time. Those are our top 3 recommendations: spiritual practice, avoid EMF, and embark on journeys into nature daily or as frequently as possible, especially if you live in the city. That is all that we wish to share for now. Thank you for your attention, and be aware that we, the Pleiadians, are a multidimensional race. There are many different types of Pleiadians. The Pleiades is a star system with many different stars and many different planets. Call upon benevolent, ancestral Pleiadian guides. Call upon the benevolent assistance of the unity consciousness loving Pleiadian ancestral guides that are here to serve and help humanity, and we will come and be in service to you in ways that you may not fully understand, but that will aid you in your ascension process. We thank you for this opportunity to communicate, and we will allow the channel to speak some final words of reference before we close. We love you. Goodbye. Okay, well, that was that. I hope that was helpful or enjoyable. If you liked the video, leave a comment below or share it. And what I wanted to leave as a reference for those of you looking for spiritual practices that you may not be aware of, I practice Buddhism. It is a form of Buddhism called Nichiren Daishonin's Buddhism with the SGI. I chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo every day, and this helps me raise my vibration, connect to the spirit of the universe, and to just change my karma. And there's lots of information about that practice on sgi-usa.org. There are also lots of different organizations that have spiritual practices or ways of being that may align with you, different from Buddhism, that are also based on unity consciousness. If you live in the Los Angeles area like I do, an alternative organization that is amazing is Agape International. It's a trans-denominational spiritual center led by Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith. Many of my friends and colleagues and I myself am a member of that community as well. There's countless options, but yeah, definitely find a way to meditate, pray, and ground yourself every day. And if you have questions or want to find out more about the work that I do, you can look at my website, www.Atasieā.com. That's ATASIEA.com. Or you can check out or find me at www.ecstaticdancela.com. Ecstatic dance is a freeform movement practice where we do yoga and dance and have live DJs and sound healing, and I practice energy work and massage there. And it's a great community in LA if you're in the LA area. Or if you're not in the LA area and you want to find out about the ecstatic dance community, you can go to ecstaticdance.org or ecstaticdance.com and find out about local ecstatic dances all over the world. And it's generally a really positive, drug and alcohol-free, free-form dance community event. Children can come, very kind of healthy frequency, and great people that are generally seeking to do good in the world and raise the vibration on the planet. So if you're around, come dance with us in LA on the first and third Sunday of every month in West LA. And yeah, thank you for your time. Much love and peace and blessings.